Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Strick and Roll. I'm your host, Shwin. In this episode 70, I'm joined by someone who you may be familiar with. His name is Zach Blatter. That is @_Zach Blatter on Twitter. He is the host or co-host of Takes from Obvious Bozos. Zach, how you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm basking in the glory of the first conference finals run. I'm enjoying a couple of days off before I'm inevitably stressed, regardless of the outcomes, and it's a great time.
Well, this is you're popping your conference finals cherry, so that's good news.
Whoa, but hey, yep, I guess so.
You weren't even alive last time they made.
That is true. I was not alive. If I have 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, but I was at a bar after Game 6, and there was a lot of Knicks fans there, and one of them was older, and he was clearly had a few drinks, and I said to him, I was like, "Hey, man, last time there were conference finals, I was not born," and his reaction was pretty priceless. And then he also was like, "Wait a minute, my daughter's 25. That means you must be 22." And I was like, "Yep, I am 22." And it was a wholesome interaction, but the guy was like scared shitless that somebody could be an adult and not be alive for the last conference finals. So,
well, at least we got that one out of the way. Maybe we'll get a finals appearance, maybe a finals win. We'll see. We're going to talk about that. Before we do that, I do make a few announcements. First, being that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise which you can find on our website at www.strick.land. There's a link to take you to the merchandise store. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can find on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Strickland also has a Patreon which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Strickland, the podcast that I host, Fire to the Prez. You also get access to Takes Me Out of His Bozos, podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach. And you get access to Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. So for the tiers, there's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strick and Roll, this pod right here, where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Brennan, one of the best in business. And you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos and Desmond Novak. Their further tiers is $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. This comes with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on our product recordings, merchandise, 6 ounce, and even potentially hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not necessarily possible without you. So without further ado, let's get started. We're doing a vibes check, doing a pre-conference finals vibes check. And I'm going to start with the head honcho, the man who has come in for plenty of criticism for myself and many others, who has faced skepticism throughout this season, who was facing a lot of criticism from myself, many others, after Game 5 against Detroit, really after the entire Detroit series. A lot of criticism. That man is Tom Thibodeau. He has now coached the Knicks to an unlikely victory over the Celtics in 6 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals. He is 4 wins away from taking the Knicks back to the finals, which they have not been to since 1999. Where are we on Tom Thibodeau? How confident are you in his ability to push the right buttons here as the Knicks gear up and look to get to the conference finals against a Pacers team, which, I know the Knicks were shorthanded, obviously, last year, but did beat the Knicks last year in 7 games in the second round. And, there's a lot of things that happened in that series. Very weird series, actually, if you look back at it. But, I guess just where how are you feeling about Tom Thibodeau nowadays?
better than I was a month ago, which I think is like shocking in itself. But I think we talk about this almost every day in our Discord, but it's easy to kind of look at the lineups he deploys and then be like, oh, he's so rigid. He won't make a change. He won't start Mitch. He won't do all these things. But like, if you've been following like our boy Shaq's, like he actually has been doing some adjust, and like they aren't like major starting lineup adjustments, but he has shown a willingness to do things that he wasn't doing in the regular season, like switch on screens almost every time against Boston and play the double big more than what we were seeing in the regular season, and do the other unique defensive scheme shit that I can't really explain, but I've seen other people tweet about it. And I mean, I think he's shown a willingness to be a little more flexible in game. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And he may have the same starting lineup forever, and he may have the same starting lineup next season. And it is what it is. But I think there have been games where Josh doesn't play 39 minutes or whatever he had been playing before, and he does play Mitch a little bit more. And he does, I can't remember the exact game, but there was one where he rolled with Deuce like for almost the entire fourth quarter because he kind of had it going in the Boston series. And like he has shown more willingness to do stuff like that. And it's encouraging. And I can both things be true in a sense where it's like, hey, would another coach get more out of this roster? Probably. I mean, it kind of remains to be seen, but I don't think you can complain or make a fuss over what Tibbs has done with this roster so far. And I think I have enough confidence in him I think the Knicks are the better team in this series, but I also think Tibbs can outcoach Rick Carlisle in this series. And this is a series they should win. And I think Tibbs is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the rigidity and lineups and stuff is fair. I think it's like a accurate criticism of him, but what I think is also fair is tactically, he has definitely evolved over the course of the season. And very, very specifically, he has, truly, at least in the Celtic series, truly made just a major shift in kind of what the Knicks were doing defensively. This is from James Edwards' article in The Athletic today. During the regular season, there were 34 games in which Towns never switched in pick and roll coverage per second spectrum. Furthermore, in the rare instances that he did switch, he never switched more than 4 times in a game during the regular season. In 5 of the 6 games against Boston, Towns switched 5+ times in pick and roll coverage, including 13 times in game 1 and 14 times in game 4. So that's one. Brunson switched just 26.8% of the time while defending the back ends of pick and rolls during the regular season per second spectrum. During the series against the Celtics, Brunson switched on 43.1% of Boston's pick and rolls that he was defending. And then this last piece, which I think is huge and has gone uncredited for too long and not given enough credence. We've talked about it on the pod, but the numbers kind of really, really bear it out. On the other side of the floor, Thibodeau leaned into Mikal Bridges as the offense's initiator when Brunson sat down. Per second spectrum, Bridges averaged 9.2 pick and rolls per 100 possessions during the regular season. Against Boston, Bridges ran 13.2 pick and rolls per 100 possessions. In the first round series against the Pistons, Bridges ran 11.8 pick and rolls per 100 possessions. So, as we're kind of seeing here, he has, shifted the Knicks' defensive coverages in the Celtics series in a big way. Played way more switch-heavy defense, which is not typically something that he is comfortable doing and leaning on, and is not really his foundational defensive principle. And then, look, the Bridges thing has been something that has been talked about all year. Why aren't they getting him more involved? Why doesn't the end? Now we're seeing that. So to go back to something you said earlier about how, maybe other coaches could get more out of the team. Maybe that's true. Maybe other coaches could get more out of this team in the regular season. Maybe other coaches would have an offense that had a little bit more variation, would have a little bit more off-ball activity going on. I think there's been stuff that's been done off the ball well at points in this postseason, but I do think the offensive criticisms are somewhat warranted, especially when you look at how relatively middling the Knicks' offense has been through the postseason. All credit to Detroit and Boston, both really good defenses, but it is worth mentioning that. But if he is making changes that we've wanted him to make all season, and he was just saving it for the playoffs, or whatever his reasoning was, process is great. We should evaluate process, but results matter. And he's won, whatever you think about the Pistons series, they won the series. And they beat Boston in large part because of tweaks that he made in terms of the rotations. Do I think that at times he arguably benefited at times in that Celtics series from guys getting in foul trouble? Yeah, I do. I think there are times that he had to roll with lineups that I'm not fully sure he would have rolled with. If Josh Hart doesn't have 5 fouls on the stretch of game 4, is he really going to sit him as long as he did? I don't know. I don't have I can't know that. All I can judge him on is the choice that he did make and the choices he has made. And to me, not only is the tactical stuff very encouraging from Tibbs, but the fact that he's been willing to roll with it, even at points in that Celtic series where maybe you felt like the game was getting away from you, or you weren't comfortable with the matchups that you were conceding, or you were giving up too many offensive rebounds, something that they struggled with a lot, especially early in that series. And we know that Tibbs hates giving up offensive rebounds. I mean, every coach hates it, but that's like very, very a big pet peeve for him. So for him to like be able to just kind of weather those storms and look at it and just take the kind of like, yeah, I know the results maybe aren't exactly what we want right now, but we think we can iron that stuff out. And they did slowly iron a lot of that stuff out. And they got the result they wanted again against Boston. One other thing I think he deserves a ton of credit for, and I definitely haven't seen people mention this, is if you look back at game 6, and I know obviously it's a 30-point game, everything basically goes right for the Knicks that could possibly go right. But a lot of their success offensively, I thought, especially in the second and third quarters, they did a really good job of attacking Jalen. In game 5, they had Jaylen Brown basically guarding Jalen Brunson, right? And he did a pretty admirable job on him. In game 6, if you watch, they did a really good job of running actions to get Jaylen Brown off of Brunson, and then not just doing that, but then also kind of targeting him off ball, because Jaylen Brown is a guy who falls asleep off ball constantly. Yeah. They were really, really good about that in game 4 and especially in game 6. So, look, that doesn't happen by accident. That clearly is part of something that was drilled home, I'm sure, by Tibbs and the coaching staff. The players were able to execute and capitalize on it. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, to your point, like considering how we felt, a month ago, right, when this Pistons series started and the regular season ended, to now, I think you got to say, one, barring some insane historic beatdown or something at the hands of the Pacers, yeah, I can't see him, and there's just really no argument to be made to move on from him at this point, as far as I'm concerned. And then, so I mean, that's it really. Like, I just don't really know what the argument is. And I think you got to also feel good about, is there stuff that we could strive to be better with in terms of maybe maximizing what we're capable of offensively, taking more threes, blah, blah, blah. Sure. Yeah. I think that's all fair and good, but no coach is perfect. No coach is going to nail every single thing and do every single thing you want. And honestly, the goal isn't for Tibbs to coach exactly how we want and do everything we want to do. The goal is for him to coach to the best of his abilities, make reasoned decisions that are warranted and can be justified by any variety of metrics, and understand and know when to push the right buttons. And so far, all you can say is, look, we know all the issues with the starters and whatever. There's all things that we can focus on and criticize on. But, we've played 2 playoff series, 12 playoff games. And ultimately, I think you have to look at it and be like, yeah, Tibbs emerges with a ton of credit based on where he came into the series from, too.
Yeah. And I also want one last thing with Tibbs is this often gets overlooked. And I think we spend a lot of time doing the X's and O's and the lineups and the analytics and the on-off data and whatever it is. But like, this guy has the guys prepared. And I think they could have walked into Boston on the road against a team that was way better than them, the defending champs, a series they were expected to lose. I think it would have been pretty easy for them to just roll over, lose that series, and then not have too much criticism because they were the odds-on like favorite to lose. They were not favored to win that series. And Tibbs has done this year. He's done it in years past, but like these guys are mentally ready. They're prepared. They believe they can win. I mean, like this is such like a cliche coaching thing, but it's kind of undeniable with how Tibbs has approached these playoff series and how these players have kind of responded to a few of these losses. Like I think some of their best wins in Detroit and in the Boston series were after when they came off a loss, and like the way that they've responded and the way that they've approached the moment. And like, that's all the coaches deserve credit for that too. And like the players will get a tons of credit for that stuff. But I think a lot of that is coaching too.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think there were points in the season where, quite frankly, I think there were players that were frustrated with whatever we were doing. They did not look on the same, to your point about being prepared. We saw multiple games this year where we were like, do these guys have any fucking clue what they're trying to do? Yeah. And there's still a lot of stuff that I think is a little sloppy offensively, especially. Defensively, I haven't had much of an issue with what they've tried. I think they've been largely pretty good, and I think when they execute the game plan, it's been effective. So that speaks to the coaching perspective. But like, yeah, I mean, in terms of their preparedness overall, how much they've been willing to mix things up coverage wise, all that type of stuff, I think has been really good. And, I think he obviously deserves a ton of credit for that. So I think we're both saying the vibes are good for Tom Thibodeau right now.
He owned us. He owned us.
I hope he owns us for 2 more series. That'd be great.
He owned us.
Yep. Let's keep owning us, Tibbs. Please keep owning us by doing things that I've always wanted you to do. Let's move on to a player. I'm not going to do the Brunson thing because I think what we can do. Brunson,
what am I going to say? Bro?
Yeah, vibes are good. Vibes are good for Brunson. Everything's good. Okay, great. Let's do Karl Anthony Towns because I think the conversation around him has been pretty interesting through the playoffs. So I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on what you thought of his play so far overall, and just kind of how you're feeling about him going into this series here.
I feel great, and I think this is the best of the 3 series that we will play in, like Boston, Detroit, and Indiana. I think the Indiana matchup is the most favorable for him, and I think this is going to be a big series for him. And I think he's kind of coming in with a good confidence and a good past few games. I don't know if he started off too great in the Detroit series, and he's kind of rounded back into form lately. He's obviously had a couple games where he just like, I don't want to put it all on him, but he's like kind of frozen out of the offense and then doesn't get the shots that he should be getting as like the number 2 option on this team. And I don't know how much of that I put on him, how much of that I put on Tibbs, how much of that I put on Jalen and the other guys. But I feel good about him, like overall bottom line. I think he's a very, very unique talent that can be hard to work in. I definitely think he's working through a wrist injury right now. Like I believe that the wrist is absolutely bothering him in some way to where he's not as willing to shoot the 3. And there have been, I think in game 6 against Boston, he was firing away, but that felt like they were kind of up a little bit, a little more leeway to play with when we have like a 15-point lead and you want to fire some more 3s, go ahead. But there are definitely some moments, and like I believe that we will get a tweet in whatever July or June that like he underwent some sort of procedure to reconstruct the wrist or whatever, the thumb that he had. But I mean, he's playing through it. He's a trooper. Everybody's playing through something at this point right now, and I feel good about him, man. I don't have too much to say.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. It's people have been really up and down on their takes on him. There are games where you're like, this guy's awesome, and then there are games where I've seen people like, this guy's terrible, not a top 20 player. What are we doing with him? We have to move him. We can never win a championship with him. This is what he's doing so far in the playoffs. He's averaging 19.8 points, 11.3 rebounds, 1.1 assists to 2 turnovers, which is not great.
Yeah.
He's averaging he's averaging 0.8 steals, 0.9 blocks, so just under
one of each.
2 stocks per game. He's got 48, 34, 92 splits from the field, 52 effective field goal percentage, 58 true shooting. Definitely has dropped off in terms of his efficiency from the regular season to the postseason. There's no question about that. I think you can view that as this shows some of the limitations of his game and some of the stuff you have to overcome when he is such a key part of your team. But I think defensively, it's never going to be perfect. And we've seen, in game 3 and game 5 against Boston, we saw some of the worst stuff from him that he's notorious for in some of his pick and roll coverages and whatnot. But I think you would say overall he's competed defensively. Again, not perfect, not even necessarily good when he's at the center position, especially. But I think he's given good effort. And then when you see the minutes with him and Mitch, you're like, wow, this actually seems pretty good. And actually, Cat looks good next to Mitch, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And, I think it's like, obviously the playoffs are what we're always going to largely judge these guys on, especially at this point of where we are in terms of like our team build. But he was a monster in the regular season for this team. He played a ton of minutes, played a ton of games. He was super effective. He's going to be probably a second team All NBA guy. If, at worst, he'll be third. There's no chance he won't make an All NBA team. I don't know how I feel about him going into this series. I think in theory, this should be a series that he dominates. This should be a series that he has a really, really good opportunity to be a kind of like maybe even the conference finals MVP, and be a key guy kind of to help lead the Knicks back to the finals. But, I would say my vibes with Towns are kind of where I've been at with him all year. I think there are times where it's awesome. And then there are times where you're like, what's going on with this guy? Is he okay? To your point you're making, I do think he is playing through something. I'm not sure if it's a wrist. We do know he dislocated a finger on his
wrist, thumb. I'm kind of like I'm putting those together.
He dislocated a finger on his non-shooting hand. There was that video of him in Game 3 saying it's broken. I
don't think that's what he said. Like I don't think that's what he said.
Even if it is, he's dramatic. That's what he does. But yeah, I mean, I think my vibes to them are just kind of like, it's fine. Like I think it's fine, and it's weird to feel that way about an All NBA player. We're like, it's fine, but like, I think that I know what his limitations are. I know what he's going to struggle with. I know what he's good at. And I know that the team itself, to your point, has not always done a great job of featuring him, making things, making things kind of like easy for him, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. But I think like he's had moments too in this postseason where he's calling big plays. Like the end of Game 4, he hits 2 crazy shots. Like he hits that fading baseline shot over Tobias Harris, which he's basically out of bounds, and he shoots that.
And the step back, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah, the step back 3, which won the game more or less. I mean, it's the game winning shot anyway. And he's rebounded well again. So I feel good about him. I don't know if I can't say I feel confident. Because I just think that he's a guy that's constantly like, it's never gonna just be consistent, especially maybe in the regular season, sure, but in the playoffs, definitely not. But even with the ups and downs, I think overall, I'm just kind of like, I'm good with Cat, even though I'm still like, I don't fully trust you.
Yeah, I'm pretty aligned.
Great. Good talk.
Let's move. Let's do the next one. Cat is as advertised.
All right, next one. Let's go with the most polarizing player on the team so far this season, Josh Hart.